Okay. Hi, beautiful people. Welcome to the Conscious Togetherness Summit. I am Zsa Zsa Tudos, the organizer of the event. This summit is different from all the others around, mainly because it talks and teaches, conveys messages and helping tools about the great love affair between earthlings and their lives, without which living is reduced to a floating existence. Today, a wonderful person whom I am proud to introduce to you is sharing some of her vast knowledge on the subject. Please welcome Takara Shelor. Hi, Takara. Very nice to have you here.
Hi, great to be here. Great to be here.
How are you today?
I'm fabulous today. I'm in a really, the energy is great. It's still morning where I am. So yeah, it's all good.
Yes, the moon is waxing, so it's okay. Giving us some backings. Well, I was running through your data and jotted down a few thoughts that caught my attention, such as inner peace regardless of outer circumstances.
Right.
I mean, you were once an engineer and managed in a pharmaceutical company. What caused you to become interested in spirituality, metaphysics, life balance, and helping to find inner peace?
So my life was so out of balance. I mean, the reason I'm balanced now and the reason I help other people is because my life was so out of balance. I grew up in a very kind of abusive situation, and I learned that pleasing others was really important, so when you take that into corporate life, it's a disaster because you put all the stress on yourself to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be better than anybody else. All these unrealistic expectations that I had about myself. And the job was very intense. I was the only female manager in a pharmaceutical manufacturing facility. And so one day I finally just went up to the edge, and I literally went over the edge on stress. And I melted down. I was in the floor in the fetal position, crying hysterically because I'd remembered that I'd been raped. And so I realized in that moment, all these feelings were coming out that I'd never felt before. And I realized that if those are who I am, if these things that I've never experienced before are part of me, I don't really know myself. Like I just felt like, because I'd stuffed all those emotions for years. I grew up in the South, in the United States, where you just grin and bear it no matter what's going on with your life, and a lot of women learn to do that anyway. But, I was really like a master at it, where I didn't even feel my emotions myself. And so when this all happened and all these memories flooded in and all this emotion, I was angry, I was sad, I was scared, all these things, I started going on a spiritual quest, and I started seeing both professional psychologists, psychiatrists type people, but also I started getting energy healing and taking classes and learning meditation and learning to play with crystals and all these different things that we do to try to find harmony and balance and peace within. And what I quickly discovered is that utilizing these tools that I was feeling kind of intuitively guided to utilize, my life just changed radically. I became happy. I became more at peace. I didn't need to be perfect, And so eventually I quit that job. I moved to the San Juan Islands. I founded a nonprofit for dolphins and whales. And I just went on now this 30-year quest of finding more and better ways to help other people and myself. And that's how it all happened.
Very, very interesting story, and very moving also. Why do you think it is important to understand the self?
So the more you understand about yourself, the more you follow what brings you joy, and you start cutting out the things that bring you unhappiness. You know, the more you know you and your real desires and your real feelings, the more you can arrange your life to bring you more peace and happiness and balance, and go after dreams that you never maybe allowed yourself to have because maybe it wasn't okay, or somebody else said it was a bad idea, or you think you need to do something someone else says is success, or, you know, whatever, like you need to have this house or this car or this whatever. But when you really get in touch with yourself, you really get in touch with the divine within and with nature and with being more balanced and in harmony, you just are more in tune with your true desires, your true wisdom, your true intuition, and life begins to flow. You have moments where you're just much more calm and at peace, and you start following your dreams and achieving them, you know, and all that begins with knowing yourself a little better.
Very interesting. How did you manage to find the tools to take you on this journey of finding yourself? Because you talked about crystals and dowsing and I don't know, energy healings and all that stuff. How did you find them?
So there were a couple different ways. When the emotions, you know, I kind of look at how I used to live as like, here's a pot with a lid tightly on it where I was holding all those negative emotions in there. Okay. Yeah. So when the pot lid came off and all the emotions came spilling out, the other thing that came spilling out was my intuitive ability. I suddenly had these intuitive promptings. I suddenly could follow intuition and buy a book or have, you know, sign up for a session with a person. Okay. So part of the things that I learned was because my own inner knowing was nudging me in that direction. So I would I would go to a bookstore and I would be reading the titles of, you know, you got your head sideways and you're reading the titles of a book, right? And I would read a title of a book and I would start getting tears. Now, it wasn't because of the title of the book. It was something in there was something for me, right? So I would buy the book. And then, you know, and so over time, I got this whole mountain of books that I would then follow intuition and whenever it felt time, I would read that one. But I also was guided or felt intuitively inspired to start seeing a particular woman, especially when I first woke up spiritually and I was first healing all of these emotional wounds from the rape experience. I started seeing this one particular woman. And, you know, we did energy healing, we did past life regression. I learned how to meditate through her. Like there were all these tools that she introduced me to, but she also would recommend courses. And she would say, I think you would really enjoy, and she'd tell me a course that she'd heard of that was happening locally. And so I learned aromatherapy that way. I took a 9-month women's wisdom course where I learned for the first time, like doing shamanic journeys and about, you know, the times when women were honored, right? And the goddess traditions and that sort of stuff. So part of it was because I was handed a teacher who assisted in guiding me along that path. And part of it was my own intuition. Yeah.
Yes, it is very interesting because obviously you needed to push your past a bit behind to allow yourself to go forward for the moment, at least.
Right.
Otherwise, I mean, it would have been very painful to take this path. And your intuition was sort of oppressed by the past pain of the past, actually. So it is very important to let go. And then by letting it go, we allow the help to come in and to take us to the helping place and the healing place as such. It's very interesting. I know quite a lot about you now because I went through your through your data on your website and here and there, so I found few fascinating things like you are teaching the inner peace, of course, you've been talking about. And I found another very interesting thing, the circle. You talk about not spiritual circle, but
The inner circle?
inner circle, yeah.
Inner circle, yeah.
Sacred circle, sorry.
Oh, the sacred circle, right.
Yeah.
So the sacred circle is a membership program that I run. Okay.
Excellent. So tell me all about it.
Okay, so for years, I taught an in-person class. Once a week, I drove to a place and people gathered, and I was teaching energy healing and advanced energy healing techniques and all of that. And that went on for several years, and students attended, all of the classes. And so, they learned all sorts of stuff from me. But I kept feeling nudged to go in more of a goddessy tradition, right? Looking at divine femininity and looking at honoring the goddess and honoring the feminine, honoring intuition, honoring the healing gifts. And so I created this container for studying that sort of thing, and it's all women. So it's a group of women that we come together twice a month, and I lead them through an energy clearing and infusion technology that I work with. I teach them whatever I feel inspired to teach them in the moment. There's a lot of energy healing. When I do a guided meditation, it's really a shamanic journey, or what in the Celtic tradition or the more goddessy traditions would call like a vision journey. Okay. It's much deeper than a guided meditation, if you will. And so the way those work is that I'm shown a picture of a location that I then start to describe. And just as I'm completing the description of this, I'm shown another picture, which I then describe. So I'm being led on a journey, an inner journey. Yes. It might be to a sacred circle with standing stones somewhere in Europe, or it might be, to inside a cave, or out in a forest in a beautiful, it's always different, and I never know where it's going to be. Sometimes I take people down into the ocean where we can breathe underwater, and we play with dolphins and whales, and we get insights and all of that sort of thing. But, there's often a guided journey like that. That's part of it. And so I just introduce them to energy tools, ways to heal themselves, ways to empower themselves, ways to step into their true nature, what they're here for, their mission, their passion, their purpose, their, uncovering their intuitive and other like spiritual gifts or talents and skills they might not even know they have. So a lot of what we do is awakening those things, and so it's very experiential. Everyone who's involved is going through the journeys, and we're doing these practices, and we're toning, we're using sound healing and that sort of thing, using our voice. And so it's rather than me doing a lot of lecture, it's very experiential. I mean, I do teach, and I teach through story, but that's part of what that is.
Yes, I do something very different. I have a bunch of students. They've been with me for 20 years, 21 years now. And they learned a lot of things from me, but they are still learning. And I sort of do something very similar with them at the moment. Do you think that it is a pity we don't have anything for men?
I think there are a few things for men. There's not a lot, but I do know, at least in the United States, that there are some like men's movements. I forget some of the names because I'm not a guy. I don't really pay attention to it, but I do know that there's I'm getting chills. So that there's some truth to what I'm saying. there's some programs where men gather in groups live, and go through some processes, and they might do, more intensive, like what we would call warrior training. But it's not necessarily about weaponry and all that stuff. It's about mastering yourself and standing strong and being noble as a human. And I went through spiritual warrior training myself, actually, with Stuart Wilde years and years ago. Okay, so I kind of know what that's like. But so there's ropes courses, and there's ways that you push yourself, but you also, in the process of pushing yourself physically, you're looking deeply at it brings up fear. It brings up your mindset, and you have to face that, when you're in a circle with people that assist you, and there's somebody leading that. So it's not like all arduous. It's actually quite illuminating and enlightening and fabulous. And they build, a brotherhood. They build camaraderie. They build kind of like, if you, again, think about warriors, the guys that and girls these days, right? They become fighters in some sort of military organization. The unit that they work with, they become very, very tight because they depend on one another for literal survival. Okay, so in these other groups that teach this sort of thing, you're developing these things where you learn to trust yourself and these other people. It's not life-threatening. It's not any of that sort of thing. It's just a way to build male bonds, because I think from an energy perspective, I've done all kinds of groups where it was mixed, male and female. And that has a certain place, and it's powerful. But there's also something very, very powerful about women gathering, just women, and also about men gathering and it just being men. Because there's certain energies about that, and there's certain ways, women are receptive. Their body receives, right, sexually, but also their energy field is much more receptive. And so when we're together, that plays off nicely with one another. Where men sexually and in their energy field are projective. Their energy sends out, more than ours. I mean, we can do it as well. We can be balanced and do both. But there's a leaning and a propensity for being more pulling energies in, which makes for women it much easier for us to receive higher wisdom. Men can do it, yes, but we're wired to do it. That's why in some of the indigenous cultures, women were the ones that received the insight, and then they shared it with the men, and then that was how they ran the organization, the tribe, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I have a theory, and not really a theory. I do believe in that we have a very different brain structure as such, men and females and males. And the vast difference between the two is that the sexual center in our brain as women is near the hearing center, while the male's sexual center is near the seeing center.
I pointed to it before you even said it. I was like, I know exactly what she's talking about. Yeah.
And
I haven't thought of that. I haven't thought of that, but I absolutely agree with you. As I tune in, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. Because, this is when there's sex involved, hearing is important for me, like hearing someone breathing. Well, but like, it's not always the case for a guy. Like, it's just very interesting that you bring that up, because I've never thought of it that way. I just thought it was something for me rather than women. Good to know. That's lovely.
Well, actually, because I teach that everything in life is sex. So
yeah,
know how it goes, because everything is really the elixir of life and has this wonderful living power in it. And I also think that males are looking at a project from above and females are looking into the details more. And in that way, you know, I mean, they are much more thorough, females are. But then again, they can get lost in the details.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
But while the guys are just, they might not see the details, but they can see the whole project as such. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about me is I'm sort of in the middle and do both, you know, because I did that engineering thing, right? So
Yes.
I trained my brain to look at the whole picture, but also be able to put all the pieces together. So it's very, what I do mentally is way too much for a lot of people, because like, as I'm working on a project, I want to see all of it, not only the bigger picture, but all the details. And then my brain organizes it all. And then I do the thing, you know, that's how I pack. I have to see absolutely everything. If I'm going on a trip, I have it all laid out in the same place. And then I have the bags open and I just put this one here and this one there and this one here and whatever. And then I close up all the bags and I can tell you exactly what is in every single bag there. Like, and even in the car, where the bag is in the car, what's inside the bag. It's just how my brain organizes. It's so crazy and fascinating.
Yes, it is very good. So actually you benefited from being an engineer in the past.
Yes, yeah.
Because obviously whatever we are doing or we are teaching, we really need to organize ourselves and need to understand what is going on. I think it is, I would call it consciousness, when you or us, we do something consciously rather than just on the surface, sort of floating around, you know, and take the road, whatever is in front of us.
Right.
Very exciting. I find your teachings fascinating, actually. I am very intrigued about your one-to-ones. What are you doing in your one-to-ones?
Who knows, right? I mean, for real. And the reason is because everyone is different. Okay. Yeah. They're not scripted. They're not planned. So, I get chills. So, you know, a lot of people learn a lot of tools, and that's beautiful. You know, we all start somewhere. I learned Reiki, I learned aromatherapy, I learned sound healing, you know, I can use tuning forks, like all this stuff, but it's like, not everyone needs all those things. In fact, this person might need just this one thing, and this other person needs 3, but they need to be these specific 3, you know? Yes. And so I just tune in. So when a person wants to do a private session with me, you know, we make a time and then we get on a phone call and I just say, you know, tell me what's going on with you. And as they're telling me maybe a story about something they're facing right in the moment, or their overall life story, whatever they feel like sharing, usually they come to me because they're stuck somewhere and it's a specific thing that they've been trying to get over on their own and they haven't been able to. You know, but whatever it is, they start talking about it. And as soon as they start talking in, I'm tuning into the energy and I'm receiving insights. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. And I start, you know, I always have this, I have this little notebook, right? And I've got my pen and I start jotting down notes as it's coming to me. So I'm listening to them. I'm fully focused, 100% tuned in. Well, maybe not 99% is tuned in on them and 1% is taking little notes as I'm receiving, okay, we're going to do this guided meditation and they need this particular energetic and I need, you know, whatever I'm guided. And then, you know, sometimes we do a past life regression. Sometimes we do a soul retrieval. Sometimes there's a higher aspect of them. You know, we're multifaceted diamonds. And most of us are only aware of a couple of facets. You know, we've shined those up really well. Like, I know I'm an engineer. I know I'm an energy healer. I know I'm a mom, you know, but there's all these other things. And some of those other things are who we've been in a past life, or, you know, systems that we've mastered, like high priestess of this, or, you know, whatever it is, Atlantean, Lemurian, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's off planet. Sometimes it's the star being that we are, And that comes with, or planetary being that we are, or whatever it looks like, you know. There's an aspect of me that is dolphin. There's an aspect of me that is fairy. There, you know, we are multifaceted. And so sometimes in these sessions, once we've done a big clearing piece, however that happens, it can be because I do a specific energy, something, I send them an energy that I channel through. It could be the past life regression or whatever. But once it's cleared, once this boulder is out of the way energetically, now there's room for this big infusion to come in of a higher aspect of self. And so sometimes it's literally this massive upgrade. You know, sometimes it looks like this golden being that just steps back into the person. And then they begin to integrate that. And they'll, like, you know, they even can see differently. I mean, it's amazing the stuff that can happen. Sometimes it's just literally letting go of something that happened when they were 5. You know, but everybody needs something different. And so no two are the same. And I've got a lot of tools, and some I channel in the moment for whatever that person needs, you know.
So that's what you are calling the spiritual treasure hunt.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Excellent. So what do you mine for? Silver, for gold, diamond?
I actually have a thing about those. Okay, so calling myself the spiritual treasure hunter is actually a kind of new thing. I've been trying for decades, literally decades, to figure out how to describe who I am and what I do. I mean, we all, you know, anybody in the spiritual thing, anybody doing coaching or spiritual work has that issue. And we work on it for a long time, and it evolves and whatever. But always, always, there's been this thing. I've talked about treasure, and I've talked about it. It's come up again and again. It just never put it together until recently. But I think there's 3 things specifically that I'm looking for. So the diamonds and other jewels are our intuition and our spiritual gifts. And when I say spiritual gifts, I don't necessarily mean it has to do with the spiritual nature. It could be that you're an incredible pianist. It could be that, you know, whatever these divine, you were born with these divine gifts, these special talents that you have, uniquely you, that hopefully over time you will uncover and start to fine tune and enhance and utilize, right? So it doesn't have, they don't have to be spiritual. They're just your gifts and talents. Also intuition falls into that. So the, you know, the diamonds and the gems and all that. Then there's gold. And to me, because I work with a lot of gold light and golden sparkly light and light in general, I say the gold is your healing abilities, because I believe all of us can be channels for healing energy and do healing for ourselves and other people. Some of us are drawn to do that, and we feel a calling, and it's part of our life mission. But anybody can do it, and they can do it for themselves. And so that's what I call the gold. And then pearls, you know, you think of their like strings of pearls. And when you think of a treasure chest, there's always these, pearls cascading out of it. And the pearls to me are these little magical bits of wisdom. And some of it comes through us, and some of it we pick up as we go. But it's like how we string together wisdom and knowledge and the information that makes us wiser and better in the world. So those are kind of the 3 things that I'm helping people, assisting them uncover and bring out and access and utilize in their life.
Excellent. It's very nice. I also found a very interesting thing you say, noble sea. What is this noble sea?
Noble seas. So for years, and I actually have some notes about the noble seas, because I usually talk about 5, and those 5 I can rattle off just like this, but I've added some additional ones. So I call it, you know, before when we were talking about the men, and I was saying it's like them stepping into this space of nobility, okay? There is a state of being where, you know, the average person tends to get stressed, and like life happens and they get really bent out of shape, and they, you know, whatever. But there's a state of being that is, I call it more noble. I call it the noble sea state. And the reason I call it that is because every single word starts with the letter C. Okay. So it's just a whole series of words came to me describing the state of being where you're, where everything is working and you're in divine flow, and there's grace and ease and synchronicity, and manifestation is easier. And it's just the best way to describe the state that you're in physically and mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. I'll start with the letter C. Okay.
Yeah,
so the
sure.
first letter, I know it's fun. The first one is calm, right? Having this inner calmness.
I see.
Clear, being clear energetically, not only in the physical body too, like purification, cleansing ourselves of toxins, not adding a ton of more toxins, being careful what we eat and what we drink and what we breathe and what we put on our skin. And then it also goes to the people we hang out with and the situations that we are involved in. And, so then it becomes even more about toxicity. And then I talk about the energy field and making sure that that is clear and doing things to clear it. So it's all about becoming this pure vessel. So I call that being clear. The next one is being confident. When you know who you are and you know what you're being guided to do, there's a confidence that you feel, that you find that what it takes, you have the courage, which is another one of the C's, but you're confident in the words you're saying, you're confident in who you are, you're confident in stepping forth and taking the actions you need to take to achieve your dreams, to repair a relationship, whatever it might be. The next one is divinely connected. Having this alignment, being in tune with your inner wisdom, with source, by whatever name someone calls source, The next one is being courageous, as I mentioned before. It takes courage to do the right thing. It takes courage to get out of your comfort zone and take actions. It takes some courage. And that courage only comes from trying it, taking a baby step, and then standing in that new place, and then taking another step. Like you doing a summit. This is the first time you've done this, right?
Yeah.
It took a little courage to take that step and say, I'm doing this, To some people, that would be so monumental, they could never do it, right? But you just take these little steps. So courage is one of those. The next one is committed. Committed to yourself, to your journey, to what you want to accomplish in the world, but just being committed to your path as a spiritual evolution or what your ideals are, just, having commitment to things and sticking with it. And not taking no when it's something that needs to happen. There's times when you're just being bullheaded and you shouldn't go that way, but there's a difference. And when it's the right thing, you just keep working at it. The next one is creative. The more spiritual you become, the more divinely guided you become, the more calm you are, there's a tendency to become more creative. And you create training programs or summits, or you create written projects, or you create a work of art. You paint, or you write, or you speak, or whatever, make a beautiful garden. But there tends to be some creativity that happens. Then there's also cooperative and collaborative, where instead of always being in competition, you become, you start to do that thing where you're part of a bigger whole. Like your whole summit is about, the oneness and the coming together with self, but also with others. And it's this collaborative ability and this collaborative work is far more effective than when we're standing on our own, trying to, always be in competition with everyone else. And the final one is being conscientious and courteous. I find that the higher we go in vibration, the more we heal the drama of our past and let go of the things in our limiting beliefs and all of that, the more we do that, the more we become aware of other people and how they feel and how what we say and do is impacting them. And it's not about shutting ourselves down to keep everybody else happy. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's tuning in and saying, okay, I could say this, or I could say this. Which one is a better way to do this so we can be in collaboration and there's more harmony in the relationship, right? So it's just being aware of how we impact the world around us. Those are the noble C's. And when you have all that going, life is magical. It's just, it just, there's synchronicity and joy and love, and miracles seem to happen. And it comes from that state of being.
Yeah. I teach, and I have this theory again, that we are obviously here to evolve and to learn. That has been established by many people. And what I think, we always have a comfort zone, whatever the comfort zone is. Some people's comfort zone is, it might be just the bedroom, and other people's comfort zone is the whole universe. But you have to arrive there, and one comfort zone is the same as the other one, actually. The point is that you have to advance from one comfort zone into a new one, and then learn that new comfort zone. And then when you learned everything, it is becoming so boring anyway. So you just sort of open the gate, get into a new one, look around, some fresh air, good, okay, I am going to learn this comfort zone. And then step by step, you just actually proceed into a higher elevated existence as such. It is very exciting. I wonder, what was your very worst experience with a patient or a client of yours?
Oh my goodness, gosh. It's been so long ago that I have to really think about this. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think, okay, if I figure out where I was living. I'm
only asking this question because obviously everybody is different, and everybody's mental and emotional intelligence are on a different level. So it's very difficult to work with somebody who has no idea about anything what you are doing, because they have some resentment and it's very difficult to open up.
Right. So, I mean, I just remembered my first one. I was thinking, did I ever do sessions before then? I mean, when I first started, I'll tell you about an event that happened when I was in Toronto. When I first started, I volunteered. There was a little yoga studio in Southern California, and once a month they gave a free healing clinic. They did a free healing clinic for the community that couldn't afford to have sessions and acupuncture and all these other things, right? And it was so long ago, it was like 1997 or something. It was a really long time ago. And so once a month, we would show up, they would have massage tables for us, and all over this whole, it was basically an older home that they'd converted the whole thing into this yoga place. And so there's like a bookstore, but there's all these rooms, there's a really giant room where they would teach the yoga classes, and there would be a bunch of these, massage tables there, but then there'd be other little rooms, and so we just got assigned a place, and the people would write their name on the, a paper. And whenever the next person's name got called, they would be assigned to whichever healer was available. So they never knew if they were going to get me or an acupuncturist or somebody else or whatever. So when I first started doing it, what I was doing was I was doing crystal layouts on people with Reiki, because that's what I knew at the time, and right away, there was a guy that used to come, and I felt intuitively that it would be really powerful if for one person, there was a male on one end and a female on the other, that there would be an enhancement to the energy that each, you know, for the client, you know, I was thinking about the client and tuning in because I'm very, very clairsentient. I feel stuff in my body, what it would be like if we did this, what it would be like if we did that, right? And so I convinced this guy, he thought it was a great idea. So, you know, this lady laid down and he stood on one end, you know, and put his hands on her head and was running energy and doing whatever he was doing. And I was at her feet. And they had on, they always played music over the intercom.
Yeah.
And they happened to have music on there that was sort of more of a rhythm, kind of almost like African drums, right? And I love dancing because, like I said, I'm clairsentient. I feel everything. So I feel the music, right? So I was sort of doing this. I was rocking my body and I was sending energy with it pulsing through her. And afterwards, she said she'd had 3 fused discs in her spine and she had not felt that much energy or pain relief for 3 years. And it's because I allowed the energy to come through me and I was actually moving because by moving my body, I was letting more energy come through, you know? So that was one of the first ones. But that was years before I started just really intuitive. I mean, that was intuitive, but that wasn't, I mean, it was very, you know, I'm going to do Reiki. I'm going to do a crystal layout. That was much more prescription than what I do now. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Of course, I am a Reiki healer master myself. That's the only education I took actually in my life. No, I went to a psychotronic course. Yeah, but apart from that, all is my own doing. What kind of programs or courses are you planning to do in the foreseeable future?
Coming up?
Yeah.
I've got some very interesting courses coming up. So, you know, there's this ongoing course that is the Sacred Circle that we talked about already.
Yeah.
You know, that is always open and it is always happening, but it's for women. Okay. Coming up in September, I think it's September. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but this is the order of the new courses. So part of what I do, and you can see with the dolphins, I've got my little dolphins with me, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's like this huge necklace of all these silver dolphins and my blue topaz. But dolphins began coming to me in meditation in 1993. Okay. When I first learned to meditate, dolphins started showing up in my meditations. And so one of the things that I do is I bring through this energy healing that is dolphin, you know, it's like being enveloped in dolphin angelic energy. It's kind of what it's like. It's very divine feminine related. Okay. So I did a best-selling book called Dolphins and Whales Forever. And I ran the thing and I wrote a chapter, but I also had other people who do dolphin and whale type energy healing to contribute a chapter. And one of the other girls and I became quite good friends. Her name is Cindy Lepori. And Cindy is an incredible channel. And so I do all this energy healing that's dolphin related and oceany and water and emotion healing and all that. And she works with all these sea creatures as well. So we've put together an entire series called the Seas of Ascension.
Oh, wow.
And we're doing modules. So the first one is about really healing deep, deep trauma. And it focuses on octopus healing energy.
Wow.
Very, very, very interesting because that energy is so different, you know, but it's really powerful and profound. And so it's going to be, as we think, we're still designing it, but we think it's 6 weeks, once a week for 6 weeks, like 2-hour classes where, you know, and after these, it's actually a certification kind of program in the Seas of Ascension. But that's just the first module. And it goes and goes and goes. There's like 13 different modules. So there'll be dolphins, there'll be whales, there'll be all these different sea creatures, sea turtles are in there. But each one bring a different vibration, a different healing modality, a different way to assist people in not only healing their junk, right? But also rising in vibration, you know, going into a higher consciousness and then having all these tools they can use. So that's the first one that's coming up in the future. The
Wonderful.
next one totally shifts gears. Okay, 'cause I wear a lot of hats, right? I'm a publisher. Okay, so coming up after that, my son and I have recently, I've had a publishing company for ages, but my son is coming on board. We're launching together a new publishing company because he does fiction and he's working with fiction authors, and I work with, you know, nonfiction authors, and I write my own nonfiction books. And so we're putting together a whole training for authors and aspiring authors, you know, so it's much more 3D, it's much more practical. It's about writing, it's about what it takes to be published, it's about all that. So that's coming up. And then after that, I'm putting out a whole new program that's very specifically about some of what we've talked about today, but it brings in these energy healing tools specifically that are dolphin related, and utilizing some of my oils and the different tools that I have that are infused with this dolphin healing energy. But it's really very, very transformational. I used to call that program, I used to do it previously, called Freeway to Freedom, but I'm pretty sure the name is shifting. But it's all about just really releasing things. So it's just going to be different than what I'm doing with Cindy, you know, and it's just a whole different set of tools. And that course, it also is going to have certification with it, where I'm going to train trainers who can then go out and teach this. It's a whole new healing technology that I've created, channeled or brought in, you know, and put together. And so, yeah, it's going to be a certification course in a healing modality. So
excellent.
That's some of the things. Some of the things.
Okay, and how much would they cost? Just about.
I know the class with Cindy is $444 for the 6 weeks. And I don't know yet about the other two, because we haven't figured out exactly how long they are and how much is involved, and what, you know, with Cindy's program, the one I'm doing with her, there's also an add-on if they want some of my oils. You know, I infuse energy healing into oils. And so we're going to have a whole like swag, you know, package. So that's a little different. It's optional for people that want to purchase that. So, you know, but with my program, not the one for authors, because again, we haven't done enough of the figuring out the training to know how much to price it at yet. But the one that I'm doing, again, I don't know the pricing, but that's one is going to come with a whole kit of things because it's tools and it's a technology. And so it's going to come with all kinds of stuff. So it's going to be a little pricier. I just don't know how much yet.
Excellent. I wish I had all those helps when I started up writing. But
right. Yeah.
one figures it out on the road. You know how it goes, but it would have been really very good. Anyhow, anything else you want to share with us, or share with the people here who are looking for some kind of empowerment to fix their love affair with life?
Well, one of the things that I would recommend, and this is me again tooting my own horn, but, you know, I just recently released this book, Unleash Your Future, which, you know, you've read and enjoyed. And, you know, part of what people struggle with, tend to anyway, is how to achieve their dreams, you know, how to manifest the life that they desire, including this relationship with themselves, you know.
Sure.
And part of that is getting clarity. Part of that is knowing how the manifestation process actually works. And so in this new book, Unleash Your Future, we lay it out. We explain it all in what we think is very clear instruction. It's very practical. There's actions to take. There's, you know, there's homework basically throughout the book for people to really learn how to manifest. And so the more you are able to create the life you love, the more empowered you feel. You know, when you don't feel like you have any control about anything that's happening, there is a feeling of disempowerment. So I think that manifesting plays a key role in feeling more empowered. You know, part of it, again, is like what we said before about trusting what you feel, honoring what you feel, honoring your likes and dislikes, and not making them wrong, honoring them. I used to teach a class on manifesting your beloved, how to call in that perfect partner, right?
Yes.
And one of the things I said was, if you like a tall guy that has this color hair and he's kind of buff, own it. Just own it. Just, if you like what you like, and be okay with that, don't make it wrong. And so we all have preferences. My son likes redheads. He's really, really into redheads. I'm not red. I've never been red. Nobody in my family's, it's just something that's attracted him for whatever reason. It's just like, own it. Just own it, So be honest with yourself, and trust that no matter what happens, the universe has your back. When you can embrace that idea, you can be a lot more courageous, and you do feel much more empowered,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we have problems with choices, first of all. Secondly, we have problems with not belonging. I mean,
Yes.
these are really very sort of heavy burdens to carry. And especially with choices, it's very interesting. People are afraid of making a bad choice.
Yes.
Do you think that is a bad choice?
I think there's some that are less unpleasant. And here's what I'll say. Every choice I've ever made that ended up horrible, like I was raped, okay? I was in a situation and I was raped. I left the corporate world and I went off to the San Juans, and I co-founded a nonprofit for dolphins in Wales. And in there, the relationship I had with my co-founder ended up being horrible. And I actually ended up being suicidal. Okay. So if I look back at those things without knowing the bigger picture, I would say those are bad things. But the truth is, I would not be who I am today if either of those had not happened. So for me, absolutely, I wouldn't wish these experiences on other people, but they were definitely part of my journey, and they're fundamental parts of my journey. Like, if it hadn't been for the rape, 15 years later, I wouldn't have had that spiritual awakening when the memories surfaced, right? And I wouldn't 30 years later be talking to you, like if I wouldn't have had that spiritual awakening that happened and all the healing tools I learned that I now use to help other people, that whole cascade and dominoes of events wouldn't have happened if that really awful thing hadn't happened, right?
Yes.
So in hindsight, after I healed it, after I forgave, after I did all the things you have to do, which is not easy and takes a while, right? Yeah. Once I'd done that, it's like I see it for what it is. Yes, I could have made a different choice, but it is who I am today because of that. So in this lifetime, it was an important piece. So I really don't think any choice is bad. However, when you get into tune with your intuition and you learn to acknowledge something feels good versus something doesn't feel good, if you follow the ones that feel good, not logical, oh, he's cute, I want to go this way. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a true kind of inner knowing that this is the right thing to do, right? And that takes discernment and a little practice and some meditation and different ways to get so that that's fine-tuned where you can tell the difference. But when you do that sort of thing, you make the decisions that feel more empowering and they will guide you. But I kind of think when we're first starting out and we're going through these things, we tend to do those harder ones. We really do, because that's what wakes us up and makes us pay attention. Later on, we pay attention to the subtle, we just listen to the intuitive prompting and like, yeah, even though this sounds fantastic on paper, it sounds fantastic. My logic says, I could make $1 million if I did this, and whatever our logic tells us. But if intuition, if this inner knowing is like, yeah, that's not for you, then it's not for, you go the other way and you don't know why. You don't know why that's not the thing for you. You just know and you just trust. Yeah.
Yes, I think that we always make the choice we are capable of making.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because you see, we usually say, oh, today I couldn't do my 100%, or yesterday I couldn't do, or whatever it was. We always do our 100% because that is the 100% we can do at this particular moment.
Right. Right.
And of course, we are talking about having the intuition and the meditation and the spiritual opening to make better choices, but we have to arrive to this better choice or to the spiritual opening, and until we arrive there, we are going to make very fascinating choices.
Yes. That's a great word. Fascinating. Interesting is one I use sometimes. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, I am always challenged by that because my life was not better than anybody else's, obviously. We all tend to go through all that upheaval here and there, but
Right, right,
but
right.
that's what made me, and
Yeah,
I am not regretting any bit of it.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this wisdom. It was excellent. And I am so happy to have you here. And I am sure you will be available to answer questions if there will be any in the
Absolutely. Yeah.
Facebook group. So thank you very much and have a wonderful, wonderful time and see you very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It has been my pleasure and blessing to be here.
The pleasure is mine, my love.
And I can't wait to, hear all the other people that are on your summit, and,
Yeah.
we're all going to have a lot of fun together. So
I am
many
sure of
blessings.
that. Thank you very much.